Boom! What is up, woke folk? This is Alex Lazarev. And I did this one a few weeks ago when I was back in London, right after my Primal Therapy. So we really dig into, the heart opening that I went through and how important it is for human beings to open up their hearts and actually feel what's in there. Life-changing experience for me is all I can say. So I really go into that. And my guest, John Matrix, fascinating guy. He's been working with psychedelics for over a decade. So you're getting a lot of insights on that. And we also dig into the nature of I. What is I? And we kind of get into a, interesting discussion really about what is I? Who is doing the talking? And he's basically goes into some crazy stuff of that there is no I making decisions, that everything is just thoughts appearing, and that there is no being actually doing any thinking whatsoever. It gets a little bit heavy, but it's interesting. It's fun. I think you're going to like it. So dig in and enjoy episode 4 of the Woke as Fuck podcast. See you in the next one.
Are you ready to get woke? Welcome to the Woke as Fuck podcast with your host, Alex Lazarev.
Boom! Here we are again with another special magical moment. Joining me in the studio, the fantastic John Matrix!
Hello.
I can't do the sound. Dude, it hasn't been that long. It seems like it's been ages, though, because so much has happened.
Yeah. You popped in briefly with your lovely wife to drop off some stuff. I forget when that was, a few months ago, and then you pissed off to...
No, didn't I see you last when we came in to stay in your flat, and then you fucked off to Slovakia or whatever, right? That was it. That was the last time I saw you, wasn't it? Yeah, because the wife came by herself. She came by herself.
Yes, that was
That's
Marcus.
right.
Sorry. Yeah.
You confused me from Marcus?
I
Are you
did.
serious?
I did. I thought you shaved your head. That's what I had. That
Wow.
happened, yeah.
That's
You're
fantastic.
right. It was the last time. Yeah. That's what confused me. Yeah.
That you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, the memory's a funny thing. So I hadn't seen you since I subletted your flat, and it's been a trip, man. So much has happened. We had a great time doing the London thing, just being Londoners in fancy Notting Hill and going around, and then we were in Budapest for ages, and I had such an amazing time there. I had an amazing time there, and I did a bunch of courses and stuff, which I guess we'll talk about. But what's the main thing that's happened with you? Any discoveries or realizations or anything just in the last couple of months, really? 3-4 months? Because you're always poking and prodding and doing crazy stuff.
I've definitely got much more. Well, I was really into the non-duality stuff, the oneness, or whatever you want to call it.
I know.
So I've kind of gone further into that. I found a guy actually on YouTube who's very good. I've read his books as well. A guy called Fred Davis.
Okay.
So the Rupert Spira was a guy I was always a fan of, but Fred Davis, this American guy, is also very good. Realization's kind of hard to put into words, so I won't try.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But have you gone further down in your personal realization? Kind of your journey into oneness,
I have,
suppose.
and yeah, when using various psychedelics and substances, I've definitely had experiences of can I put it of disappearing, if that makes sense, and sort of blending into reality for a brief period of time, and. So losing myself, I don't know if you call it that, but under the influence of whatever, having a moment where suddenly I can't locate myself in the room. The sort of memory of me being the subject of the experience is not there. And I'm suddenly like, there's nobody there. There's just reality without a subject experiencing it.
Well, what we're talking about is just being. Right?
Yeah.
Just having the awareness that you are and that you exist.
Yeah.
But without a body or thoughts or the ego or any of the other bullshit, just I am. And that really is the experience we're talking about, just the I am experience. I think go on.
I was going to say, it's like it removes some of the conditioning that's so ingrained in us to, like right now I'm sitting here and I'm looking and I'm in my body, that's how I feel. And then when, you use certain substances, it can peel away some of the layers of that conditioning, which you can also do with years of meditation and self-inquiry.
Well, this is the thing. This is exactly where this conversation is going to go, because you don't even know it yet. But I just did some heavy fucking peeling, And that's what I wanted to tell you about, actually. And it will be interesting to sort of, I think, compare the conscious peeling away of bullshit versus the, not to say that it's unconscious, but I just mean like conscious without drugs, just the normal human sort of process of clearing away the shit and dealing with pain and the ego, all this stuff, and the drug fueled, or not even drug, the substance fueled, because a lot of these things are not really drugs, they're plant medicines. It doesn't even feel right to use the word drug. So really medicinal peeling away of layers of bullshit, and the difference between them and the merging of the two. Because again, so far my biggest profound experiences have been, San Pedro, and sometimes just moments of clarity actually without anything. But the moment of clarity I had without anything was actually, it wasn't about consciously peeling away the layers. It was just sometimes you just have those moments of clarity. You know what I mean? And for me, it was just literally talking to some crazy lady who was on a subway, or just before I went into the subway, just having this experience, of awakening. But consciously peeling away our shit. That's what this is about. And so for the first time now, I went to this course that was so profound. It's fucking insane. And there's no words to describe what I just went through just now, but I will try to explain it. So basically, there's something called Primal Therapy, and some guy, he wrote about it back, I think, in the 60s. He wrote a book on it. But there's been, people have gone quite deeper with it, and there's other people writing about it, whatever. But I happened to stumble upon this one particular teacher that's really, 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 I think, really amazing. And I had no idea how much conditioning I had and how much anger I was holding at my parents. It's stunning. Stunning. I mean, look, the amount of pain I was holding inside me, just literally holding inside me, and how I feel now that it's been released, dude. I can breathe, dude. For the first time, I could literally breathe deeply. I have more lung capacity. I feel like a massive weight has been lifted from my shoulders. I'm just so much more peaceful and happy all the time. I don't have to do anything to try and be happy now. My happiness is my normal state, and it's very difficult for me not to be happy at this point. I had an incident with a ticket inspector today where I almost got into a fight, and I was really pissed for like 2 hours, and then I'm just like, why am I focused? This is stupid, and then I just went back to being happy.
So you did primal therapy.
Primal therapy, dude. It's so brutal, and the thing is, like, we're sort of, in a way, they don't want us to reveal the methods, because actually, if you don't, it's done within a certain container and within a certain structure, and so if taken out of the context of the full training, some of the stuff will sound fucking insane, and actually people might try it and it won't work, and they'll go, well, this is all bullshit. So I don't want to reveal too much, but I will say what happened for me, what my experience was. And what they do is they really just trigger. Well, hang on. Even before we get into that, the fundamental thing is that they make you realize how much conditioning we get from our parents. That's the thing, and we don't realize it, but we're so susceptible as kids because we're kids, right? Our parents are everything to us. They're our only real source of information. So if they have any trauma they haven't processed, or habits, or thought patterns, or anything, guess where that's going to manifest? Us. We pick up all of it, all of their pain that they haven't dealt with. It gets passed along to us, all of it.
It sounds like I did the Hoffman Process, and that's exactly the same thing. They teach you about.
I would love to ask about that after and compare the two. But so once you recognize that there's so much trauma that gets passed down to you, dude, it's unbelievable. And one of the core things where I was like, oh, okay, was the fact that if your parents are just bad, like let's say your mom is just fucking, abuses you and whatever, and just is really bad, it's easy then to just hate. And then, of course, that creates problems. You hate your own mother. It's going to create issues for sure with other women, whatever. And I definitely had that. But in a way, this is what's interesting. If you have an over-loving mother who's wonderful and loves you to death, that's also very damaging. Too controlling, she's loving you too much. It can actually be, because here's the thing. If you recognize as a kid your mother is good, she's good and she's right, well then if she's good, she must be right, logically. So if she does something that infringes your freedom, and you want your freedom, you think your freedom feels good, and if she does something that infringes your freedom, and you think, well, my mother must be right because she's so good, therefore I must be wrong, me wanting freedom must be wrong, and you blame yourself, you take the blame. Now you think there's something wrong with you see? So whether she's really good or really bad, either way you get fucked up. That's what's crazy. Yeah. So even if you're thinking, oh, I had really nice parents, mate, I don't know what you're talking about. No. everybody gets, unless your parents are super 100% conscious, everybody has damage. Everybody gets fucked up by their parents.
There's different forms of abuse. So you've got overt and covert. And obvious, like we'll say, if someone's really abusive to you, it's very easy to hate them. But when you get enmeshment abuse, where like your mum is too close to you and she's too overbearing, but you love her and she does it all out of love, then it's very hard to see that she did anything wrong, as you said. And that's the hardest kind of damage to undo. Because you hold your parents, especially ones that are very loving, in really high regard, and it's impossible to see that they did anything wrong. And this is something I have first-hand experience of, because my mum was amazing. It's like the nicest person you'll ever meet, but did a little bit too much for me for too long. Right. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of not cutting the apron strings, just denying my independence, but not done in any malicious way. Just done out of love.
Yeah. And,
I've been through various forms of therapy and Hoffman Process, and it's very hard for me to see that she did anything wrong. It's something I'm, still working on. So, definitely more. There's definitely more. Abuse. When people think of abuse, they think of like Hollywood abuse, like sexual abuse and beatings, but there's way more subtle than that.
Way more subtle and more damaging in a way. Because if you just realize that you were sexually abused or whatever, you just you get the therapy and it's very quite clear. It's cut and dry. Well, I got raped as a kid. Okay, I'm gonna go have to deal with that trauma. But when you think back and you go, she ignored me sometimes and she beat me up or whatever, a little bit here and there, or I got yelled at, but that wasn't so bad. And the thing is, because it's our parents, we really defend them. This is another thing we learn on the course. And nobody wants to fucking. We all have this natural urge to protect mommy and daddy, even though they fucked us over, And so fundamentally, the course is really about killing mommy and daddy, as Osho says. You have to kill your parents. You have to, because they live inside you, and their patterns and their older shit is inside you, controlling you. Even if they're dead, it doesn't matter. It's inside you, and you have to kill them. Yeah. And they made one of the things that I can reveal is that because I've seen the exercise in other places, so this isn't like their thing, but just making a list of the negative characteristics that your parents have, and then looking at it and looking for which ones you have, you're going to be in for a fucking shocker. Yeah. You make that list, you're going to go, oh shit.
Yeah. That's exactly what you do at the Hoffman Process. Okay. Identical. Mm-hmm. You map out your parents' behaviour, and then you map out your behaviour, and you join the dots. That's what they make you do. Yeah. It's like this. I mean, I've done. This is my 6th year of healing. So when I went to do the Hoffman Process, I already knew a lot of this stuff, but there was still things that I joined the dots and figured out years later that I hadn't discovered. And it's you look at it and it's so cut. When you see it, it's just like, Jesus Christ, I'm my mum and my dad.
Yep. You can't not be.
I'm a mishmash of
you can't not be. That's the thing. We
can't
can't not be. Yeah. Like, how can that even be surprising? Like, who else would we be if not our parents? Where else are we going to get the information from? Yeah.
And sometimes it can even be things that they're not even aware of, that they're carrying, that they'll pass on to you. Because we don't realise, like you said, when you're a child, you're like a sponge. So you pick up on all their energies completely subconsciously.
Everything.
If your mum's carrying some trauma or some shame about something, you'll pick that up.
That's right.
You'll pick it up somehow.
And I did, and that's the thing. You just get conscious of it, dude. It's like so basically, of course, you get conscious of it, and then doing a whole bunch of creative writing, listening to music, watching movies, all this stuff. They really, really, really trigger you. Really trigger you. And you get it out. You get it out of your system. You come to terms with all the anger and repressed feelings that you have at your parents, and you get it out of your system. And
this was this is Primal Therapy, or this was something else.
This is Primal Therapy, but the particular therapist, obviously, everyone has their own style. So this particular therapist had their own method, their own blend of their own, and they were quite spiritual. So they've been on their own path for a long time. So it was a really unique course. But so it was a blend of almost spiritualism plus primal. But wow, dude, and fuck, man, when you get that stuff out, it's like you just feel light. Like I just been carrying this burden.
There was cathartic work as well, like shouting and hitting things and like punching pillows.
There was an element of that. Yeah. Again, I don't want to go too deep into it, but there was an element of that for sure. And it was just so profound, and also it's such an experience because you bond with everyone there, and you hear everyone else's pain, everyone else fucked up shit, and you see that everyone's fucked. That's the thing. Everyone there was fucked in their own completely unique amazing way. And it's just amazing to be in a room full of people who are fucked. And frankly, some of them more fucked than you. It's pretty awesome.
There's always people that are more fucked than you.
That's
you
the
think you're
thing.
bad,
Dude,
there's people that are way, way worse than you.
100%. 100%. There's always someone where you're like, whoa.
I'm actually quite happy with the way that my
life's gone. Things are all right, actually, mate. Yeah. But if you're in a room with a bunch of fucked up people and no one has a worse story, it's you. You're the most...
But one thing I found, any workshop I've ever done, the workshop itself, whether it's therapy, ayahuasca, whatever, is always different. The one thing that's always the same is the people. You always fall in love with the people. That's what I find. You go in there, you don't know each other. Within 2 days, everyone is like your best friend. Especially when you do this kind of work, because they know things about you that even some of your close friends don't know.
That's right.
So you always bond with the people. And that's something, every single workshop I've ever done, be it Tantra, ayahuasca, therapy, you fall in love with the people. And that's something that I always take away from each workshop that I go to. It's a very nice, feel-good thing to say. It's true, though. It's true, right?
It really is, though. It really, really is. It's an amazing thing to meet some people and just do this kind of work.
It helps. Group work is amazing for
this
amazing.
Kind of
stuff.
Yeah, I had no idea. I've never done this kind of like intense kind of group work before. Holy shit, dude. Amazing. Really, really amazing.
And having people there to witness when you're going through something, I think is really important as well. When you're, obviously I don't know what you did, but you're going through a process, sometimes quite emotional stuff's coming out. I think it's important that you're doing it in a group with people that you now trust, you trust to a certain extent, and that they're witnessing it happening to you, rather than you just being on your own with a therapist. I think that makes a big difference as well.
It makes a huge difference. Yeah. Well, there's a therapist and there's a bunch of people who are there with you, and man, it's just I'm so happy I did it. It's one of those where you do it and you just know your life will never be the same after, and you're just like, fucking hell, that was amazing. And and it's such a different thing than working with, say, plant medicines, because you're consciously, you know what I mean? It's such a different thing, and I think I don't know, in some way it's deeper. I don't know. I guess it's just different. It's just so different.
I've got all the things I've done, none of them have been better than the other. There's no one thing I've done that was like, that was the thing.
Right.
There's certain things that I got from therapy and there's certain things that I got from plant medicines that I couldn't get from therapy. Like, I'll give you an example was, on some of the therapy I've done, it's all about the inner child, and maybe that was mentioned on the Primal Therapy, but you have this wounded child inside you that you've developed these behaviours to protect, because that was the little child that was hurt, and they try to get you to get in touch with it, to sort of like visualise that you can see yourself as a baby, and they get you to hold a pillow, and I was just like, this ain't working. I'm sitting there hugging a pillow, this just is not working for me. But then on ayahuasca, out of the blue, it just happened. Suddenly I was in contact with the spirit of me as a baby, and I couldn't see it, but I could feel it, and suddenly crying my eyes out, like feeling so much love for this, for the image, or not the image, like the feeling of me as the baby, and that was it. It clicked. Something that I could not get from therapy, but I got from a plant medicine, and my self-esteem, the self-love that I'd never had before, after that moment, literally after that day, changed, and my self-esteem went, through the roof after that. But then there's other things that I've got from therapy that, there's been other times I've done a plant medicine and I'm just tripping and I've got nothing from it. So I think everything together, there's no one thing you can say that is better than the other, but I think using them both.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's so different, right? We all have our own different problems, different experiences. We're just so different. So I think somebody might do something, but for them, that will be the thing. But for someone else, it'll be something else. I mean, for me, honestly, I think this was the most, other than like one time I did San Pedro, the first time, which was just absolutely insanely life-changing. Even though that was an amazing experience of oneness, it didn't help me with the trauma. And I was still fundamentally the same person. It changed my view, and I felt good, and I had this cool story. And I had more insight into the truth of reality, but it didn't really, maybe it did, but not profoundly.
No, it won't.
This profoundly has changed me. My energy is different. The way everything is different. I'm just so relieved to have done it. It's just, so for me, so far in life, this has been the thing. Yeah. I mean, it really was that profound.
Like we were talking about like non-duality and oneness and what have you, from an absolute point of view, there's no Sasha, there's no John. There's just oneness expressing itself. But from a relative point of view, there is Sasha, there is John, and we do have there's consciousness expressing itself as a mind, and from the mind comes the body, and the body is going to hold trauma. So being enlightened isn't going to heal your post-traumatic stress disorder. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
There's things that are held in the body that won't be fixed by quote-unquote enlightenment.
Yeah, I mean, probably full-on enlightenment, because full enlightenment, you literally can go into your body and control it, and that's, do you know what I mean? Like, so,
the body kind of, you're not in the body anymore, you kind of become everything. But I still think the body's going to hold on to stuff.
Yeah.
I think that...
one way to find out, mate. Let's get enlightened. And then we'll do another podcast.
Yeah.
But which bodies will we use to make it, though?
Sorry?
Which bodies will we use to make the enlightened podcast? So it's different, but it's also profound, and that's the thing. It's just like, just go and do anything. Just, do your research, and if anything like resonates, and that's the thing, just listen to what it is, and if you feel in your gut like you should do it. Like when I heard about Primal Therapy, I had a couple of friends tell me about it, and based on what they said, I was like, fuck, I really need it. I just knew there's something in me was like, you have to do this, and even I was resisting it. I'm like, oh no. I'm just like, no, I know I have to do this, and I just went and did it.
And it clicks. So you're right.
I knew it.
A light bulb goes off in your head, and you're drawn to it. Do it. It might be, like you said, it might be Primal Therapy, it might be Hoffman Process, it might be Ayahuasca, it might be Iboga. Go and do it. Do your research. Find, reputable people to do it with. Don't do it on your own, especially medicines. Don't do them on your own, and go and do it. The best money I've ever spent has been on either therapy or a retreat, or it's like the best present you could buy for yourself is working on yourself.
Absolutely.
Undoing the damage. And everyone, like you said, everyone's got it.
Everyone's got it.
As you said to me once, even Tony Robbins has shit. That was what you said.
Yeah, it's true. Well, who fucking, if you're going to be that successful and do all that shit, you're obviously trying to prove something. That's all I'm saying, mate.
Yeah. There are people out there that have amazing parents, but even the most amazing parents will have imprinted on you something negative. It's just different degrees. Some people it's really, really bad, and for some people it's a tiny little thing that doesn't really impact their lives. But I think everybody, no matter who you are, would benefit from something like Primal Therapy or the Hoffman Process, or something where you're looking at your behaviour, your parents' behaviour, joining the dots. Oh yeah, was forgiveness a part of it, of the Primal Therapy?
You know what's interesting? No,
it wasn't.
It wasn't. The thinking here was, I mean, they don't believe in forgiveness. They're just like, forgiveness is a bunch of horse shit. Their whole thinking was, you have to find the pain, you have to bring it out, and you have to get it out as anger, as trauma, whatever it is, and or sadness, whatever it is, get it out. Forgiveness, they're saying it comes on its own. Once you get the emotions out of your body, you're just going to forgive.
That's what I'm saying, but forgiveness
right, but it wasn't part of the actual training at all. It was just like, get it out of your system, and that's it.
That was something that I actually got from the Hoffman Process that I hadn't got from stuff I'd done before, was forgiveness. So it's like we were saying, it's very easy to get angry at someone who was, say, verbally and physically abusive to you, but then if it gets left at that, then it's not nice to just be left being really angry with one of your parents. But what on the Hoffman Process, what they get you to do is you go through the process of figuring out what's wrong, getting really fucking angry about it, and just like, you know what I mean, giving back the pain, giving back the shame to your parents. But then afterwards, they get you to see what it was like for your parents to have grown up in the households with your grandparents. And that was a big thing for me, because I started to see that actually your parents are running the programs that they picked up from their parents. They weren't doing it deliberately to fuck you up. It's just, and I looked at it and I was just like, Jesus Christ, my dad had to grow up in that household, and I just think he was doing the best he could.
That's right,
with the tools that he had.
That's right, and this is a huge learning for me. It's something I sort of started picking up before, but this is a huge learning from this course. Everyone has trauma. Everyone is fucked up, and everyone's just replaying the same pattern and the same ways of showing love. You see what I'm saying? Like, here's one of my patterns. So my mother was very controlling and angerholic, always freaking out and stuff. But she she committed suicide when I was 17, 18. And so the only woman that I ever loved killed herself. Guess what my pattern was throughout life? Falling in love with women who didn't love me. and having them leave me, and then me being Trump. It was the same fucking over and over. And I was like, why do I keep falling for these women who don't give two shits about me? Because my way of love to me was falling in love with women who leave me. That's what it was. And so realizing that, and I'd sort of started cluing in, but seeing it so clearly now, I'm like, oh, well, fuck it. Why am I doing this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that is the huge learning, right? Everybody has patterns. Everyone, and no one is. That's the thing. Once you realize everyone's running patterns and they're just fucked, you don't have to take things personally. No one's trying to fuck you up. Not your parents, not other people. Everyone is damaged, and they're just doing the best they can. And that's what it comes down to. And it's an amazing learning when you accept that, because it just gives you peace.
Yeah, everybody's conditioning. Everything is. We're just lumps of conditioning that are running programs. You know, every decision you ever make, everything you ever do, it's all conditioned. Like every decision you make, they did studies with it where in the brain, before you do something, the signal that lights up, you know, on like if someone puts electrodes on your brain, the thing lights up like seconds before you do something. So it's the free will that you think you have is completely illusory. There's actually nobody there anyway. There's just these lumps of conditioning. So it's nice to just we get lost in the fantasy of, you know, the Matrix and that we're real people and everything's really happening. But then when you take a step back and you look at it and you analyse things, and it's like, actually, there's nobody there controlling anything. It's all just happening. So,
well, yeah, yes and no. It's happening in that, you know, we're just conditioning running around, and it's happening because we're not even these bodies and we're something much greater. But that source energy that we are does have choice, and we do have free will, and we can do whatever we want to with our time. So in a way, nothing's happening, but in a way, everything is happening because actually we are developing our soul. And what happens here is very important because it affects what happens after we're here. Yeah. So nothing's happening, and yet everything is fucking happening. And again, that's that duality. You know what I mean? That we talk about.
Paradox.
It's the ultimate. It's the ultimate paradox.
When you get down to that stuff, it's all paradox. It's like we don't have free will, but we do have. But we
have ultimate free will.
Ultimately, consciousness has the free will to be anything that it wants, but personal doership is an illusion, and it's. Yeah, everything's like a 180-degree flip.
Well, I think the personal doership is an illusion only when you're unconscious. I mean, I really think about that for a second. If you're your average Joe, you go to work, you know, come home, watch TV, or eat shit, you don't feel that good. Do you know what I mean? Then yes. But if you're conscious, if you realize what you are, if you realize really that, you know, you have a higher self and that you're part of this oneness, if you realize that and you start really being conscious in what you're doing and developing yourself, going on the spiritual path, I would disagree fully with that statement that it's just doing. No, it's not anymore. It's not anymore. It becomes a conscious manifestation of your life and your reality. That's very, very, very real once you're conscious, once you're awake, and that's the whole point of, you know, doing this this show.
But
you know,
every decision you ever make, everything appears to you as a thought, without there being somebody that chooses the thought. This is going. If you go right into like dissecting an experience, you'll see that every decision you ever make appears to you without there being somebody that chooses it. So if I say like, "Am I going to have tea or coffee?" a thought will come up that says, "Oh, I'll have coffee," right? But the I that chooses that thought isn't there. There's no chooser of the thoughts. There's just thoughts.
I see. So you're saying the thought isn't even the thought is coming from somewhere else. So it's not even us.
Yeah.
Like these personalities that are you and me, we're not the ones making the decisions. The
info
is just coming in.
Yeah, there's nobody there, but there's nobody actually there. So this is a quoting Rupert Spira. There's a choosing thought when you make a decision. There's a choosing thought, but there's no chooser of that thought. You don't choose your thoughts. There's no entity saying, right, I'll have that thought, I'll have that thought, I'll have that thought. Right? The thoughts are just flowing. And when you make a decision, a thought makes the decision, but there's nobody there. There's no entity choosing that thought that makes the decision. So it's all a construct. That's what the ego is.
Well, here's the thing, though. Someone is making the decision, because sometimes I'll get 3 thoughts, and they all are perfectly good courses of action.
Yep.
Do I want to eat pizza?
Yep.
Do I want to eat Chinese food? Or do I want to have sushi?
Right.
They're all very valid thoughts.
Yeah.
But and who is making the decision? Well, what do I feel like now?
No. But what will happen is that there's those 3 thoughts. Then a thought will say, "What do I feel like?" And then another thought will say, "Oh, I'll have Chinese." There's just a succession of thoughts, but there's nobody there. There's no entity there selecting which thoughts are coming up. It feels like there is, but that's just the The feeling that there is just another thought. So if you look at it like that, it's literally like there's a screen with a movie playing on it, and if you imagine these thoughts are just like, you know, successions of things happening in the movie, from the point of view of the screen, where's the chooser? Where's the selector?
Yeah, I understand what he's saying. I'm just not sure if I'm with him because I don't think
I don't have to agree with it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
If you really break down your experience, you'll see that every choice you make appears to you as a thought, and there's no one choosing that thought. It just appears, and the thought makes the decision. The chooser is another one of the thoughts. The thinker behind your thoughts is another one of the thoughts. There's a succession of thoughts, and then another thought number, there's 9 thoughts, and then thought number 10 says, I am the container of these thoughts, and I make the decisions.
But it's still just a thought.
But it's just a thought, yeah. That's the thing.
That's a trip,
it's
dude.
Fucked up, yeah.
I need more time with this. Yeah. You dropped a bomb on me. Now I'm like, hang on a minute.
I don't think that that's how I live, right? I just live as a fucking normal guy, but I can see that is the case. I can't argue. I can't find that
well, here's the thing, though. But even the ability for us to have those thoughts, you know, and make a difference between Chinese food and pizza and whatever, implies there has to be an intelligence. There has to be an intelligence. Even to be able to formulate the concept that there's something called food that it nourishes us, there has to be an intelligence. I'm not saying
there's not intelligence, but what I'm saying is there's no personal doership.
Right. Well, okay, but then it's just saying that it's the higher self that is always choosing everything. That which is consciousness
is unfolding
is
as manifestation.
Absolutely, and that I could go with. Yeah,
consciousness, the oneness has total freedom, total free will to be whatever it wants because it's infinite, right? It's completely infinite. So the feeling that we feel of having free will is an echo of the freedom that consciousness or oneness has to be anything that it can be because it's infinite. It's everything and nothing all at the same time. So if you imagine that infinity downloaded through a finite mind that cannot work with infinity, you take infinite freedom and you download it through a brain or a finite mind and you get finite choice because that's it, the brain cannot work with infinity. So the feeling of free will is like an echo of infinite potential manifesting.
Interesting. That is fucking interesting.
It's good, yeah.
I need to listen to this guy even more. I liked what I heard so far, but I need to listen to him anymore.
Yeah. If you can buy enlightenment, okay, maybe you will.
We'll see. We'll see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it just
and I said, then we'll see who's laughing when I'm all fucking enlightened. I mean, sitting in my high tower, looking down at you peasants.
First of all, I want
stupid duality. Yeah, when I'm levitating in the lotus position, I'll look down at you peasants.
Well, first, I want to say that the concept of a boyfriend and girlfriend arguing over whether the boyfriend can pay money for enlightenment is quite funny and should be a sketch on its own. It is really genuinely funny. And the other thing I want to say is it's funny because I'm split because like when you told me you were going to pay money for this guy who can give you a piece of enlightenment over the Skype, you know, I immediately had resistance to it. I was immediately like, yeah, but like, should you be selling it? And should you really be paying for it? Because it's a process and you have your own experience and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, like anything in life, yeah, it's a process, but we can spend money on the things that are important to us that we want to, do you know what I mean? Just like, you know, oh, I'm going to go down to the gym. Oh, mate, you don't need to pay for that, mate. You can just work out at home. Well, yeah, but maybe there's something at the gym that'll help you. Exactly. Or a personal trainer at the gym can help you. Or if you want to lose weight, you could hire a specialist who can. Sure, you can do it on your own, but why not get help? And people have been getting help for thousands of years.
Exactly.
And even in the old days when they had gurus, you might not even pay in money, but you could pay in service or devotion, or you could clean their house, and people would literally do that. Yeah, that's all right. Sorry, I know you don't have any STDs. Hopefully.
Yeah, you don't know.
Enlightened people can just get those out of the systems immediately, mate. So even if you've got one, once you hit enlightenment, mate, you'll just get rid of that STD.
That shit out.
Using that's right, using your mind. But it is a funny thing, and it's a funny thing, and I've even thought about myself personally, like, you know, selling information that helps people, even though it was whatever in the dating industry or whatever. And it is weird because I just want to help people. Like, it's in my nature to help people, but at the same time, there is nothing wrong with making money helping people, is there?
Well, I was going to say, niggas got to eat.
Niggas got to eat. But and if you really think about it, there's people out there that are making money destroying the planet and fucking people over. So if I'm like giving someone a better life and genuinely helping them, and I'm coming from the right place, what's wrong with charging money for it? No, I should get paid for helping people.
It's the when you charge money, if you feel like you're supplying a service that is giving value and the amount of money is correct, then there's nothing wrong with it.
That's right.
It's the way the world is. Do you know what I mean? We can't all run around doing stuff for free because we end up broke.
Yeah.
So I think that's fine. You know, if you want to get better at something, you go to a coach and you pay them.
Well, it's exactly what you said, and that's where the alignment comes in. It's something I've been thinking about, just being not only in alignment but being in integrity with what you're doing. So if you're, for example, I went and did some training with a guy who charged way too much money, and we had a deal where he was going to train me, and I'd pay him after, and I paid him some money up front. And he was charging way too much money for what he was doing. He just wasn't anywhere as good as he thought. Maybe it worked for some people, maybe it was the placebo effect, whatever. But it just wasn't fair. And so what I think he's doing karmically, it's not good because he's just overcharging. But if you really feel like what you're doing is helping people, and you can see it's helping people, and you're charging what you feel is reasonable, and it's not even whether it is reasonable, it's whether you feel it's reasonable. It's the intention behind the feeling. See what I'm saying? Like, because other people might think you're charging too much or too little. But if you feel like, yeah, this isn't even that good, but I'm charging people more, I'm fucking people over, well, that's a horrible energy to be at. That's not in alignment. But if you're charging money, you think, yeah, I think that's really fair. I really feel it is worth that. Then you are in alignment, and then it's up to everyone else to decide whether they agree and whether they want to do it with you, right?
Yeah.
But it's just the feeling behind it.
And also, if you, let's say, you go to see, I don't know, one of the big names in the sort of non-dual field, like, I don't know, you go and see the esoteric field. You go and see.
Business.
She's starting up again. She can't just sit there and not start up. It's amazing.
You go and see Eckhart Tolle speak. I saw him speak actually it's about a year ago now. But you know, you pay your 60 quid. You sit in a massive auditorium and he's there and he's talking. It's not a one-on-one, right?
Certainly not.
No. If I go and see Rupert Spira, it's not certainly not in a huge auditorium, but it's in a place where there's a bunch of people and you get to ask a question, but it's not a one-on-one. So what I'm doing with this guy is it's a 2-hour one-on-one, and he says that if you'll get a lot more from having a one-on-one with somebody that's just of the same knowledge but isn't as well known than you will not having such a close relationship to a teacher. So a lot of these guys, they had a close relationship to a teacher because it accelerates the process. It would in anything. If you go and have a one-on-one with someone that's top of the field in what you want to do, it's going to be better than going to a big seminar with 150 or 1,000 other people.
It's
and
true.
You put your hand
it's
up
true.
and get one question, you know. So
yeah, it's almost like the novelty, really, just to say, I went and saw Eckhart Tolle or what, you know.
Yeah,
it's nice and everything, but
it was all right. It wasn't even that good when I saw him. I saw him. Honestly,
he was a bit shit, to be honest. Fuck that guy. Eckhart Tolle's been ripping people off for years, and you know what? It's about time we got the true information about him out right now. You heard it here first, folks.
It was all right, but I didn't learn anything new from him.
Right.
You know.
Well, there's something to be said for just being around in the space of people who are, you know, high level or enlightened, and you can feel it. Unfortunately, Eckhart Tolle is so famous, you're not even going to be in the front row. You're not even going to be within his field. You see what I'm saying? If you can, I think if you can get within a couple of meters of someone, you may actually feel it and have an effect on you. But otherwise, I think there's, you know, yeah. But yeah, I see the point. And yeah, there is something profound. I've been saying this for a long time. Like even when I've been training all these people over years and years and years. Nothing is more effective and direct as just one-on-one. There's nothing, because when you're one-on-one with someone, you could really see, okay, this is where you're at, this is your thing. You can just feel it. Like I could do so much more good with someone in an hour one-on-one than I can, spending hours speaking to a group of people. It's just not the same thing. So yeah, so I see the value of it for sure.
So that's what I'm doing.
But let's get back to this fascinating thing we're talking about. Thoughts.
Yeah.
And that thoughts are that there is no chooser, and there's just a bunch of thoughts, and there's this illusion of choice. Yep. That's trippy, man.
Yeah. So you have to put aside all your conditioning, which this sounds crazy that you are inside your body, you are contained within inside your body. Yeah. So that again, it sounds bonkers to say that you're not, but you've learned that you're inside your body. A newborn baby isn't inside its body. It's just everything that it sees, it just is. It doesn't have a concept of self and other. It just is everything, which is actually it's the oneness thing, right? A baby is pure oneness. Nothing's changed except that we've learned that we're inside our bodies. So if you can put all that to one side, And rather than saying like the I, if I say who is it that's thinking or who is it that's having all these thoughts, and you say, well, look, it's me inside my body. If you can put that to one side and you just look at the raw data, you try and find the I, the entity that's pulling all the strings, you see it's not there. The entity is just another thought. It's just an I thought that sits, it's a filler thought that sits in between the other thoughts that says, I am making all this happen. I had that thought. I made this choice. I did that. But when the thing was happening, when the choice was being made, the I isn't there. It only comes in afterwards. And so you have moments in your life when the I is not there. For example, you're watching a movie, and for like 45 minutes of the movie, you get completely lost in it. The I isn't there. You just are the movie for 45 minutes. There may be other times where you're looking at, I don't know, like a sunset or something like that, and you have these moments where the I disappears. Well, actually, all of your life is like that. All of it's like that, except you have this persistent I thought that keeps popping in saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm making it happen. But that I is just another one of the thoughts. So if you take away the conditioning that says that you're in your body, right? When you're having these thoughts, where are the thoughts? What's the location of a thought? It doesn't have one. Right? You think the thoughts are inside my head. Are they? Why are they not just... You know what I mean? If you think about, have a thought, right? Just think of, I don't know, like a pink elephant. Right? Where was the location of that thought? Doesn't have one. Well, actually, everything...
Well, that's so
everything. No, everything has no location. Even sight, hearing, all of it appears in the same place as where that thought appeared. It's just because because sight is so... what's the word? It's so strong in our understanding of what we are, because we use sight primarily, pushes us inside our body. So we think everything is happening. There's an inside to me and there's an outside that is the world. But that line between the inside and the outside is completely mind-made. It's not there.
Yeah, that's really fucked up.
Yeah, it's fucked up, man. I'm telling you, Rupert Spira. This is all Rupert Spira stuff. This is not mine.
Yeah, like someone else also was explaining that concept that, like, you know, as you go into the human body, right, there's like cells and there's smaller cells in those cells, and it goes down so small we can't even track it. It just goes down forever. Yeah. And logically, it also goes up, right? Like us, and then it goes out to the planet and the universe and the galaxy. That's within a universe that's in the galaxy, and then that's in a bit. And it goes on. So actually, and everything, and so some teachers have been saying it's actually all one. It's actually just one. There's only one thing. The universe is perfect. It's just one thing, but it's just so vast in all of the totality of it. But it's actually just one moment, and it's actually all here, and it's everything. Yeah, it's like a hierarchy. I read a book called by a guy called Douglas Harding, which was the no head book I told you about, on having no head. I think so, yeah.
It's called the hierarchy of heaven and earth. And at one end of the hierarchy, you've got galaxies, and at the other end, you've got atoms. And then in the middle, you've got human beings. So you'll have like atoms, cells, organs. Do you know what I mean? Like human being. Then you'll have stars, planets, stars, suns, galaxies, right? So you've got this big hierarchy, and it's the same process all the way through. And human beings are right in the middle. So we're like the conscious bit of that whole hierarchy, the bit that is not that is conscious, but the bit that's what's the word? That registers as a conscious experience is the human being, which is right in the middle of this hierarchy. So he calls it the hierarchy of heaven and earth. And all of it is all the same. Like if you look at the way that planets are, it's the same as inside a cell. It's like a fractal. It's like a holographic image. The same thing going on. So if you see like inside your body, you've got cells, and all these little cells make up our human body. Well, if you think about planets, right, and each planet is a cell, then maybe all of the planets in our solar system are just cells in a bigger human being or a bigger being.
That's right.
And then that is sitting on is standing on a planet inside of an. You know what I mean? It goes on and it goes on forever. That's what the universe is.
Yeah. There's no
fractals that go on forever.
Forever. It's complete madness. And something that Jane actually was explaining to me, like getting back to like thoughts. Yeah. What a scary thought that is. It's literally just that we're that insignificant in this massive thing. Yeah. But she was saying that there's egregores of thoughts, and these are basically like energy bodies of thoughts, and they're just out there. And so, depending on what you focus on, your consciousness on, and you're into, you know when you get into something. For example, we're both into this, but at other points we were into chasing girls or eating amazing food, or maybe we were learning cooking. Whatever, you get into something, you really get into it. You're actually tapping into the frequency of that thing, and you're tapping into a body of knowledge that just exists as an energy that's packed full of everything you could ever know in that knowledge. So, for example. Basically, let's say you're an inventor, right? And you're like trying to, and you're just all day and you're thinking about inventing. What's the best thing you could do? Blah, 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 blah. What could you invent? You're tapping into the egregore of inventions, and everything's in there. Everything's already been invented. Everything already exists. So when you come up with a brilliant invention, it's not you. It's not you. You haven't done anything. You're just tapping in to that egregore of brilliant inventions, and one comes down to you, and you go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. You think you're the first one to have it? No, you're not the first one. It's been there forever. The question is, do you want to be the one to bring that into, reality? And how much work is that going to take? And do you want to be the one to do that? And are you inspired to do that? But it's not your idea, And it's fascinating. And so on the same level, she was teaching me, and then I thought this was absolutely tremendous. And I can actually sense changes in my life because I've started to apply this. You have to be very careful which egregores you tap into, because there's ones of negativity and hatred and paranoia and black magic and all kinds of evil shit. And then you could also tap into ones of abundance and love and joy, and that we're all one. And that's an egregore too. So you can literally, and so as you get into something, be very conscious that you're tapping into literally an energy body that exists of ideas and thoughts and ways of thinking, right? And be conscious of what you get into. Just like, if you, like, for example, here's an egregore I've left now because I don't want to be in it anymore. I was really into the alternative news, which is actually the real news, like what's really going on, websites like zerohedge.com or Liberty Blitzkrieg or whatever. Reading these sites, wearechange.org, whatever, where I'm always like, oh, what's going on now? What are the bad guys trying to do? Blah, blah, blah. And even though like it's true, like it is what's happening, in a way, though, it's still negativity and fear-based, and I'm sucking into this egregore of worrying and fear-mongering and all this shit, and I'm just like, I don't want to be in it anymore. Yeah. I don't want to be in it anymore. And so I've just cut that off, and I can sense changes in my body when I just stop tapping into that egregore of energy. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's almost like you stopped watching the real news years ago, right? The real news, like I say the real news. I mean the
CNN and all that kind of
stuff.
Right. That's forever ago.
Right, but what happened was you then bought into the news, which was real, but it's still like
it's
if you
still
don't know
frequency.
it, if you don't know it, you just feel better. So
right.
Don't need to know it. Do you know what I mean? Like you do know it, but you don't need to watch it all the time.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And obviously,
you know roughly what's going on without getting sucked in all the time.
And it's important because look, like as humans, I think we need to be conscious to when something really bad or that's going to affect all of us happens. We should speak up and we should get active and we should protest and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, don't be when you wake up in the morning, don't be fucking going all and spending your morning panicking and reading all the fucking just have a check in. You've got a couple of friends who are conscious. Have a little chat with them once in a while. Make sure you know what's going on. If you hear something that's really happening that you're not cool with, then act. Absolutely act, but don't be tapped into it 100% of the time. You don't need to. And so I know people who just, you've got a friend, I don't know if you want to mention his name, but he's a bit like that. He's too much into it now, and it's fucking him up, right?
Well, Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
He's also done the thing of he just doesn't look at it anymore.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's realised that it just doesn't help him to keep looking at it.
That's right. It doesn't help.
Yeah. That was the whole David Icke thing and all that business. It's just, you don't need to be looking at it all the time. Whether it's real or not real, whatever. Look at it once in a while, talk about it, but then stop. Yeah.
You have to go and live your life and do what do what you're here to do. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, if that's your life's purpose to get into that stuff and expose it and whatever, fine. But if it's not, then don't get too sucked up. Yeah. But there was a reason I wanted to bring up egregores relating back to what relating back to these thoughts, right? As we're talking about that we are just the thought. Well, if that's true and there's no making the decision, we're literally just. All we really have, to a degree, I suppose, is the free choice of which thoughts do we want to tap into, because we do have consciousness. So if we are not creating the thoughts, but the thoughts are coming from the egregores, as Jane says, we at least get to pick which thoughts, and lots of thoughts are out there, and based on our frequency and our patterns and how much self-work we've done, we can at least tap into which thoughts we want. And that's even that is quite big.
But when you say...
You see what I'm saying? They're not our thoughts, but we can pick which ones we want.
But when you say we can pick which ones we want, do you mean you, Sasha, or I, John, can pick which ones we want? Or do you mean consciousness is just manifesting whichever ones are coming out?
I think consciousness has given us all the thoughts
possible. Because when you decide to do something, when you decide to get into cooking, right, it's just conditioning unfolding. There's nobody there that then says, oh, do you know what, I'm really going to get into cooking. That's just an appearance. If you go with what I said before, right, that there's no chooser, there's no entity that's choosing what's happening, there's no one that chooses thoughts, then you'll be a thought that says, oh, maybe I'll get into cooking, or maybe I'll get into playing the didgeridoo, and then another thought says, oh, I'll do the cooking. There's nobody there that chose those. It's just happening. There's just a choosing thought that says I'll get into cooking. It's hard. It's a hard one.
It's a hard one. Yeah,
really, you feel so much like you're in control, but you're not.
I know. Even now, I'm trying to make I can't really. I can't handle it fully. Like I understand what you're saying.
If you actually spend time looking at your thoughts and looking at your decision making, you'll see that it's correct. That there isn't anybody. Even when you're like, okay, look, I'm putting, for the listeners, I'm putting my finger up, and now I'm bending my finger. Now I'm putting it straight again. Now I'm bending it. If I really look at what's happening, all of that is appearing to me. Even when I go like that, right? It feels like that there's somebody there doing that, but actually what's happened is it's like a movie on a screen with a finger bending without anybody doing it. Except that there's a thought afterwards that says, I made that happen. That's what's happening.
Yeah, I think I need more time with this. Man.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really fucked up. But,
it's too much for me.
Yeah. But that's ultimately what the whole consciousness thing is that it's literally like a movie playing on a screen. You are a screen, and there's a movie playing on it, and you're not the character in the movie. I believe that I am the central character in this movie on that's playing on my screen, but actually what I am is the screen. So whatever happens in the movie, no matter what happens, the screen doesn't change.
Well, here's the problem with that then.
Yeah,
if that's true and we're not making any choices, why do anyway? Why don't I just do the easiest thing? Just go on the dole, right? Get welfare, sit around and eat ice cream all day. Who gives a shit? I'm not doing it anyway. There's no choice. If there's no choice, why even put any effort to anything?
But you won't do that. Because there's no you to choose to do that anyway. So what you'll do is you will choose the best course of action for you, because that's how consciousness will unfold. So it would never happen anyway. So on a no, seriously, I know it's like a paradox. It's a paradox.
It's so fucking.
It's a paradox. So on an absolute point of view, there's no choice, right? From a relative point of view, absolutely there is choice. On a daily basis, I'm John, you're Sasha. I choose what I do, and you from the point of view of the imaginary character John, I make choices. From the point of view of the absolute, like the absolute truth, there's no John, there's no Sasha. There's only one thing going on, and it's just like this big ball of consciousness putty that is morphing and changing as probability and conditioning, just morphing, changing without anybody choosing or doing anything. That's the absolute point of view. From a relative point of view, yes, totally, I choose, do you know what I mean? I'm choosing everything and you're choosing everything. They're both true at the same time, which again is a paradox. So you're not Sasha, right? But you also, like from an absolute point of view, you're not Sasha, you are pure consciousness. But also, you are Sasha.
Yeah, well, it's the both. Both are true.
It's both are true. Both are true at the same time.
And that's the thing. And I
but
think
that's all of this stuff. It's all about paradoxes because you can't grasp them with your mind.
That's right.
But reality has nothing to do with your mind. Reality is just reality.
Right.
Exactly, and it's not rational at all. It's just purely, completely it's nothing to do with rationality. It has nothing to do with your mind.
So when you get this 100%, does that mean you're necessarily 100% woke? Like, is that the end of the journey? If you totally get it and you're like, oh, okay, this is all just happening. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, because
or is it just another step to awakening? It seems like it's an important step.
I think it's an important step because I think when somebody's fully awake,
woke, bro. We only use woke on
when
on
somebody's
the show.
fully woke,
bro.
Fully woke, they won't. It will be so abundantly clear that that's the case. That there's only one thing going on. This is from what I've heard, is when it clicks. It's so ludicrously obvious that that's what's happening that you can't believe that you ever thought any different. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be literally like looking at, I always say this, you're looking at a picture and it's got it's a picture of a lamp, a white lamp silhouette with black behind it. And when you look at it one way, it's a white lamp. When you look at it another way, it's two silhouettes of faces. And it's, what are you seeing? Are you seeing the lamp or are you seeing the faces? And it's your whole life you've been seeing the lamp, and suddenly you see the faces, and you can never ever go back,
right,
to only seeing the lamp again.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's so many levels of woke. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody who has absolutely no idea whatsoever, 0%. They're just the zombies. They're literally zombies. And even if you just get to, just a little bit woke, like couple of percentage points, you just start to question. Even if you may not even be into spirituality, but you might start to question, like, do I really have to do this job? Do I really have to do what everyone else is doing? Is there another way? Could I be happier? Even just asking those questions, you're a little bit woke because you're questioning, and then it just builds and builds and builds from there. I think we're you and me though. Obviously, we're quite a bit further along. But just to leave the ego out of it, but there is no ego anyway, right? So it doesn't exist. So why even worry about that?
Yeah. Well, no, it does exist, but it's an output. So what Sasha is, right? Is you feel like that Sasha's an actual thing that is like almost like if you look at reality as a I don't know, as something that's happening in a computer. You feel like Sasha is a real thing and he's like an input into the computer that creates the Sasha in the dream, right? But actually, what Sasha is an output. He's a collection of stuff that isn't actually a real thing. It's like there's just data floating around in this big sea of infinite consciousness. There's just data floating around, and a cluster of it has come together as an output at the end. Do you know what I mean? Almost like the exhaust pipe. Sasha's been spat out of the exhaust pipe, and John's been spat out. We're not actually there at the source as an input. We are. Does that make sense? We're like an output from it.
In a weird way, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm not making sense. Tell me, and I'll try and explain it better. But what you are is just part of the furniture. You're not really a separate thing that was there from the beginning. You're an output.
I think you have to start doing less DMT, mate.
No. I'll put it another way. You look at an abstract picture, right? You'll get it from this. You look at an abstract picture, so like an abstract art, right? Just scribbles and shit. And then you look and you say, oh my God, look, there's a face in the corner. Oh, I never saw that before. That's Sasha. It's just random shit happening, like a firework display. And it's like, oh look, there's a person there. We're going to call that a person. It's not really there. It's just a way of looking at something. That's what you are, and that's what I am.
Cheers, mate. That's real comforting.
Yeah. But again, you have to. It's layers and layers and layers of conditioning that tell you that, of course, I'm real and I'm here and I'm inside my body. And look, I'm making stuff happen. But all of that, it's all ideas. It's all concepts. It's not actually what's there.
Yeah, this duality thing is a real bitch. I'll tell you.
Yeah. But it's supposed to be like that. We're supposed to feel separate, and because it's otherwise there'd be no experience happening.
That's right.
So it's supposed to be there, but you can see through it that actually it's not real. It's an illusion, and you can totally get sucked into it and you enjoy it.
That's what enlightenment is, I guess, right?
Yeah,
it's just
seeing
that's
through
what
the game.
Getting woke. 100% woke is all about.
Yeah.
You're just seeing that it's not real.
Watts, you realise it's all a game, but then you think, do you know what? It will be fun to just carry on playing.
Right. Yeah.
Knowing that it's not real, that it's just a game.
I've realised it's a game, but I haven't had that, 100%. You know what I mean? Like,
no, of course, the same here.
But I know it's a game.
You know it's a game, but
I've seen enough of it to realise it's an illusion. Yeah.
Right, but you still you'd still get sucked into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
less and less.
Yeah,
less
but
and less.
exactly.
Yeah.
So someone that's like all the way there. If you use the analogy of watching a movie, you're watching a scary movie or like a really exciting movie, and as the movie's happening, you're getting, you're caught up in the emotion, you're scared, and at the end of the movie, you're like, oh God, it's just a movie, thank God. Right. Well, someone that's enlightened, they
don't get scared or caught up because they realize that it's not happening.
Yeah, or they do, but they choose to do it because they want to have
fun.
Because it's a bit of fun.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Rather than really getting caught up.
That's really what it comes down to, and it's a very comforting thought, actually, knowing that there's no need to get all oh, this is something you'll appreciate. This is something I realized really just recently, and it's interesting when you have these spiritual experiences or do plant medicines or whatever. Things happen that you're not even sure what they were, and then it takes years for you to really deprocess, and then years later you have another sort of level up, and then you go back and you go, oh, I get it. So when I did my ayahuasca, when I did the four trips over whatever it was, 8 days or 10 days. It was absolute hell. It was really, it was brutal, and I was in torment. It's like my soul was being torn apart, and I was fighting for survival. But at the same time as the eye, Alex was fighting for survival, and it was really, really brutal what was going on, I could also feel a presence, just a beingness over here somewhere kind of behind me, just somewhere else, but I could feel it watching, and I knew, actually, I'm God. Like, even though I was in torment in hell, I knew, actually, I'm in control of all of this, and this is just an experience, and I just had a sense of, actually, everything is okay, and it was a knowing that I'm actually in control of the entire universe. It wasn't even I'm just in control of this. No, I had a knowing that I was controlling everything that is. Literally, it was a knowing that I'm in control of everything, that I was actually God at the same time as Sasha dying and suffering and being brutal. And I think it was feeling that knowingness, even though I was going through hell, somehow saved me. Like, just the knowing that actually, no, this is, I'm also God, so how can I be afraid? It's really weird. It was the duality of absolute suffering and absolute being in control all happening at once. It's really trippy. But anyways, then I realized, of course, that was the, I wasn't sure what that was, but I think that, thinking back now, that was simply just the I am, the awareness of the totality of what we really are, me being conscious of that as I was going through the suffering. Right,
but the I that was going through the suffering and the I that was the totality of everything was the same I. All that was happening, right, was there was you got consciousness, which when you took the ayahuasca actually expanded for you into the totality, sort of feeling the I am of everything, and then all there was of Alex was there was uncomfortable feelings, or no, there was just feelings, thoughts, and that was it. There was uncomfortable feelings, and there was thoughts saying, "I don't like this. This is horrible." That was all that was there of Alex, and then there was infinite consciousness. But we get wrapped up into the content of what's there, the thoughts and the feelings, and we forget that actually what we are is the space in which they appear. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, whenever you're having a bad experience, all that there is of a bad experience is bodily feelings and thoughts telling a story about the bodily feelings. So there was like, oh my God, this is horrible, I hate this, I feel shit, and I'm dying, and and oh, I feel sick, and that's it. That's all that exists of Alex. And that doesn't make it any easier. It's still fucking horrible because we're so caught up in that. I've actually tried this. The last time I did, when I did rapé, I did a tobacco ceremony, and I did a lot, and I felt I was just in hell. It was just fucking makes you feel so sick. And I'm laying there thinking, come on, you're not, there's just thoughts, there's just the feeling of being sick, and there's a thought saying I don't like it. Doesn't make it any easier. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't able to detach.
Right.
But there's a guy, I've heard about, there's a guy called Peter Ralston, who's like an enlightened Zen master. White guy, but he's in his sort of 60s now. He's been practicing martial arts his whole life. He had root canal surgery without anaesthetic, just to prove he could do it. And what he was able to do is to separate the thoughts, the pain and the thoughts that say I don't like the pain, and then the consciousness in which they appear, and he's able to just see them as they are,
right,
and not do anything with them.
Yeah, I actually had to do that the last time they worked out my teeth. That didn't last very long. I looked at her. I'm like, I might be all right. Let's just try it. And there was pain. I'm like, yeah, it's all right. It's only pain. Then it was like, holy fucking hell, that hurt. All right, yeah, just use the needle.
But you can see it is when it's happening. There's just the pain, or there's just no. I wouldn't even call it pain. There's just a sensation, an intense sensation, and there's a thought saying, "I don't like it." That's all that's there.
Right. If you can just ignore that thought or recognize it's just a thought.
It's just see that both of those things are completely neutral.
But the thing is, the feeling of pain is very unpleasant.
It is. It's unpleasant, but
and it's not a thought. It's like, oh God, it really hurts.
But what hurts?
Unpleasantness.
What's unpleasantness? Is this a story telling you?
Something,
but again, it's really hard to separate it. But you can see that it's just an intense. In the same way as when you have an orgasm, right? You have orgasm and you have intense pain. That's why you get these sadomasochists that like really intense pain, because for them the orgasm and the pain are the same thing. It's just an intense sensation. So I'm not saying I can do it. I absolutely can't. I still fucking hurt myself, and do you know what I mean? But to an enlightened Zen master, that's what they can do. They can separate it out, and they can just be the consciousness in which everything appears, and they don't get caught up in the story.
It's fascinating. I think if people can just walk away from just that concept of just being conscious of the fact that we're that awareness, and that we are something greater than these, fucking human flesh sacks that are around for whatever 100 years or so. you just don't have to get so stressed out and take things so seriously because it doesn't matter.
Anytime you're in any situation, anytime you're in a situation, just look at the raw data of the situation and say, right, okay, there's an uncomfortable feeling. There's a thought saying I don't like the feeling. What else is there? Oh, right, that's all there is. It's just a feeling, and there's some thoughts. There's a story about the feeling. That's it. So you can start to look at it and say, well, hang on a minute. Now, is this like, for example, anxiety? When you've got anxiety, rather than just going, oh my God, I feel horrible, look at the anxiety and say, right, what is it about this anxiety that makes it unpleasant, apart from the story that tells me it's unpleasant? It's just a feeling. It's just a neutral feeling. Right. It doesn't really have any power over you. And then once you can take that away and say, well, hang on a minute. I can't be anxious because I am the thing that is... What's it? If I'm observing the anxiety, how can I be anxious? The thing that's observing the anxiety has nothing to do with the anxiety. There's just anxiety, there's some thoughts, and then there's a space in which they're contained, and you are the space. You're not the feelings themselves.
I feel like this is a discussion that could just go in circles for hours.
Yeah.
So I'll say with this, but it's been a great show. It's been a lot of fun, and always interesting to get the brain going. But here's a question: if you had to give some homework to the listeners, something they can do in a daily practice for them to sort of start applying this and sort of have it, ruminate, where they can maybe get some movement, what would you say?
Dissect your experiences when you're doing something like, I don't know, like meditating, or you're doing a menial task like cutting a cucumber or washing your hands or cleaning your teeth. Rather than just going off in your head and thinking about whatever, break down your experience. Look at what's actually happening, rather than seeing it as one continuous experience. Say, right, what's going on? Okay, I can feel the sensations in my hands. I can feel the knife cutting the cucumber. I'm aware of the sound outside. And you'll see that there's a whole bunch of a collection of stuff happening. But then you've got to say, well, where now in all of that stuff, where am I? Where do I fit in? Where's the I? And see if you can locate the I.
Don't panic if you don't.
Yeah.
Don't freak out. But dude, always a pleasure.
Yeah.
And look forward to having you on more shows in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Peace out.
Cheers.